Janelle, Spencer, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
Tomorrow is International Whiskey Day, and so he says, oh, man, well, we got to talk to somebody about this, I'd say.
I
From
love
the
whiskey.
Hardware Distillery, we have two great guests in studio to talk about this. Hardware Distillery is online at thehardwaredistillery.com, and Memorial Day starts their summer hours, and let's see here. Chuck, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And we are talking about the Hardware Distillery in the Fjorden Crossen, and I am just completely blank. Jan is the other person. I'm sorry about that. Jan and Chuck Morris from the Hardware Distillery. Good morning to you both. International Whiskey Day. First things first, Hardware Distillery getting a couple awards a few years back on some of their fine spirits. And give me the history of the Hardware Distillery. How did it come about?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we're in the old hardware store in Hoodsport.
Yep.
My wife decided that we should become a distiller. And so a friend of mine said, well, two things. If your wife says, let's start a distillery or let's buy a boat, you say yes.
No matter what, you go yes.
So our son had started a brewery before in Seattle, so we kind of knew a little bit about that. Went to some classes. I'd always had an interest in whiskeys, especially Scotch single malt whiskeys.
Mm-hmm.
The laws had changed to allow for a small distillery. We kind of looked in Seattle, where we were living at the time, and thought, nah, we don't want to be that kind of distiller. We want to be a little more like a mom and pop store, small. And we've had a cabin out here for like 25 years.
Oh,
so
great.
We thought, we knew Hoodsport. We thought, this is great. And we thought, okay, we'll be really busy in the summer, and maybe we'll go to Mexico in the winter.
Sure.
Well, we didn't realize we have to spend all winter making the stuff for summer. And whiskeys especially have a 3 to 5 year delay, right? So the stuff we're selling now, we made a long time ago.
Wow.
Interesting.
And we're making stuff now that I'm putting in a barrel that I'm putting dates like should come out in 2022 and 2024.
Isn't that something? Do you do all the distilling, and what's the process like? Is it all on site there?
Right,
Yes.
all on site. So if we want to talk whiskey,
Yeah.
since it's whiskey, we make a malt whiskey, like a Scotch style, and it's made from wort or beer. So we grind our own grain, we ferment, we make the beer, we then distill it. Once it's distilled, we put it in a barrel to age.
How do you know, without just testing this a lot, I mean, 3 to 5 years down the road is quite a long time to wait to taste something.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that you're going to come out with something special? What was your first?
You don't know. And the interesting thing is that it changes over time. So maybe 2 years in the barrel, it would taste pretty good. And then maybe 3, not as good. And then maybe 4, really good.
Really?
Yeah,
What
you
is it
can't-
about it, the aging process? Is it with the charred barrels and all that stuff?
Yes.
It does. The whiskey itself basically dissolves part of the barrel, and the molecules come in. And then they have esterification, which is creating esters within the barrel. And that's when the barrel can go better and worse and better and worse, because the molecules get really long chains, and then something will happen just naturally, and it breaks down, and then it rebuilds again, more complex and better tasting. So you always taste the barrels. It's part of my job. I have to go down and drink.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Jeez,
rough
that's
job.
a tough one, huh?
I'm looking at some of your products. Are there any certain ones you'd like to highlight that are the most popular? Or the
What's this
crowd
bee's
pleasing
knees
ones?
one that you guys won the award for?
Well, the bee's knees is, we make a mead, and technically it's a melomel, which is a type of mead, because we add fruit to the honey to help the honey ferment. And we get, our honey is from Rochester, and so like we have a raspberry bee's knees, which has more than one award. And we get our raspberries from Spooner Farm.
So it's all local.
Mostly, yeah. As local as we can get it.
Sure.
It's all Washington State in any event.
That's amazing.
So we make the mead, then we distill it, and then we age it, and then it's bee's knees.
What are how is it? I mean, you guys have been around for a while now. How are you guys being taken to in Hoodsport, and then people come from all over and visit this place, visit your beautiful distillery?
Yes, actually they do. We were on the Travel Channel on the Booze Traveler, and that brings a lot of people from various places.
Oh wow, okay.
And we get it for a while. We weren't getting very many people from Shelton when we first opened, but I think the word's spreading to Shelton, and we have a lot more guests now from Shelton.
That's nice.
Which we like, yeah.
And remarkably, a number from Portland. I
Yes.
didn't realize the Portland Hoodsport connection and Portland sort of Port Townsend, driving up 101. And I've talked to some people and they said, well, on Sunday night at 5 o'clock, I'd rather leave here to go back to Portland than Cannon Beach because Highway 26 is so,
that makes
the
sense.
traffic can be really bad. And he said,
Wow.
it's real nice.
And Chuck, you give private tours, is that right? Is that
We
still
do.
available?
We when people show up, we've tried to. Well, we thought a couple of times we'll be formal. You don't have it every hour on the hour.
Yeah, yeah.
And that never works because
No,
everything's too fluid. So it's basically people show up. If they want to go in the back, the back. We're all in one space,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And so we go back there and we talk about it. And I will get into the woods as deep as anybody wants to. I've had
That's cool.
some people say, well, what's your specific gravity of your wart at the beginning? And so getting technical, I'm willing to say anything. There's no secrets. We do things that have been done for several hundred years.
Wow.
We just try to do it as good as we can.
You guys also ingrain yourself in the community with a lot of fun events. And last year, I was able to take part in the Fjordenkrossen, and that's using the aquavit, and you guys make that as well. Let's give that little background and story to that's an interesting drink.
Yeah, so aquavit's a Scandinavian spirit, and it's constructed the same way as gin in that you take a base and you redistill it with spices. Gin, your primary spice, is always juniper berry, so it has that very distinctive taste. Aquavit, your primary spice, can be either caraway or dill, and then they play really well with other spices. And so we have one that tastes like black licorice, which is sort of a traditional southern Swedish style. We have one that tastes like cardamom and one dill. And the dill one is the one that we take in a barrel across the fjord or the Hood Canal.
Yeah.
And we call it Fjordenkrossen. It's an homage to Linja aquavit, which is a Norwegian aquavit that in 1805 was sent in barrels in a ship down to, I think it was Australia or East India. The shipment was rejected and it went back on the boat in the barrels to Norway. It arrived and it was delicious.
It says something with the water, right?
Yeah, so the rocking of the boat on the water. And so we thought, well, we can do that. We have a fjord, close enough.
Yeah.
We're not going to cross the line. We can't call it Linja, or the line being the equator. So we just have Fjordenkrossen.
It's a lot of fun, and you can get involved with that too with Hood Canal events, and the Fjordenkrosen's coming up on June 29th, and it is a heck of a lot of fun. You get your kayaks or paddle boards, go across with the boat that's got the aquavit on it, come on back and celebrate that. So you are in winter hours now, but before too long it'll be Memorial Day, and folks come by all the time, right?
Yep.
Very cool. Any different types of whiskeys or spirits in the future that you guys, I don't know, when you go to conferences or you talk with folks that they've tried something that you think would lend itself real well to the Hood Canal?
Yeah.
Yeah, what we're doing now, and we're actually making it now and putting it in the barrel that'll be ready in a couple of years, is a peated whiskey. So peat, getting into Scotch-style whiskeys and Irish whiskeys, was a way in the old days when they malted the barley, which is a process where you germinate the grain and then you have to dry it. And in Scotland, their weather's like ours, pretty crappy. So you need to warm it. So they put it in buildings, and they warm the buildings with peat fires. And the peat smoke got infused into the grain. And so Scottish whiskeys have this tendency to taste like peat. And the peat changes depending on where you are in the country. The Isla styles, very peaty. Some of the Highlands, less so. So there's a peat bog, or a peat processing, whatever, between Shelton and Olympia. And the Skagit Valley Malting Company, a local malting company in Skagit Valley, has used that peat to smoke some barley, which is grown in the Skagit Valley. And we are using that now to make a peated malt whiskey that will come up, like I say, in a
Yeah,
couple
so
of
it's
years.
going to be very local to our Shelton
Yeah.
community.
Are you able to ship this out to folks if they buy? And can you? Is there a store, online store, or is that you can't do that quite yet?
Complicated. We don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking, well, there's so many weird laws.
Better to just come in.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's easy for us to ship within Washington State because we know all the tax rules.
Yeah.
But every state has different tax
I
laws,
bet.
and they want to impose and collect the tax they feel due if you sell to their state.
Well, you might as well come by anyways.
That's right.
Get a good
That's right.
visit of the Hardware Distillery. You can see it online at thehardwaredistillery.com. It's in Hoodsport, right on the main drag there. You can't miss it, and a very historical portion of Hoodsport.
Looking forward to taking Sarah to this.
Oh, yeah, no, you'll
Children
have
and pets are welcome. Is that right? From the
Correct.
website? Wow.
As of today.
We're there.
let them in for sure. Jan and Chuck Morris here from the Hardware Distillery. Tomorrow is International Whiskey Day, and so hey, no better way to celebrate than head out to Hoodsport.
Absolutely.
Nice to talk with you guys. We'll see you at the Fjorden Crossing, if not